What's going on, everybody? Kalipa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. Now, as the name suggests, of course, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is the successor to the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G that came out around last year at this time. So in this video, we're going to be going over the similarities and differences between these two phones to really see what all has changed and help you decide which one is a better choice for you. Now, before we go any further, as always, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with that being said, let's get started. So with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 405, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 85.4%. With the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, we're also getting a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display as well, with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 84.1%. So really the only difference between these two displays is that the bezels on the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G are slightly thinner than that of the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. So really, they're the exact same display. Nothing's really changed, but it's definitely not a bad thing because this display is really good. Not only are we getting pretty much the perfect size here, not too big, but also definitely big enough to give you the benefits of a larger display, but also really good quality. That 1080p resolution gives us a super sharp, crisp image, which is going to be great for consuming content. And overall, being Super AMOLEDs, these displays are really bright and the colors look great. And if that wasn't enough, the 120Hz refresh rates make the movement on the screens of these phones a little bit faster and smoother. So if you're doing something like watching a video, playing a game, anything with motion on the screen, you're going to get a better experience. And then when you're just navigating through the phones in general, it's going to feel a little bit more premium. Now for storage, both of these phones do have 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so definitely a really good amount of storage. For the average user, you're probably not ever going to have to worry about storage, and even if you're a power user, you can fit a lot on 128GB. And if you do start to get a little full, you can always get a microSD card to offload photos and videos and save even more space. And even if that still ends up not even being enough for you, both of these phones do have variants with 256GB, so you could always look into that too. Now there's no wireless charging with either of these phones. I was kind of wondering if they were going to add it with the A53 5G, but clearly they didn't. So maybe next year, but I still kind of doubt it. Wireless charging is one of those features where I feel like manufacturers are intentionally keeping it with just flagship phones. And although there are some lower end phones like the Visible Midnight and the Cricket Dream 5G that do have wireless charging, for the most part with manufacturers like Samsung, Motorola, all those, the mid-range phones are most likely not going to get wireless charging anytime soon. But that being said, for security features, both of these phones have face unlock and fingerprint scanners right on the displays. So let's go ahead and give them a try. So we're going to start with the A53 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So real fast and responsive, no issues here. And now for the A52 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, both of these fingerprint scanners are real fast and responsive. No issues here. They both work really well. In fact, seeing that they are really similar in lots of different ways, it probably is the exact same fingerprint scanner anyway. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we got a nice looking hole punch design for the front facing camera, and this camera is 32 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. With the A52 5G, we got the same hole punch design for the front facing camera, and this camera is 32 megapixels as well. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. So again, pretty much the exact same camera features, probably some of the best cameras you can get in mid-range phones without going to a more flagship phone like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. So whether you're taking more casual photos, maybe for social media or something like that, or you want more high quality photos that are a little bit more professional, either way, both of these phones are going to get the job done really well. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is getting 6GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is getting 6GB of RAM as well, with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G processor. Now keep in mind, both of these phones also do have other variants with 8GB of RAM each, but both of these phones in this video are the 6GB variants. Now that being said, I did run Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on these phones, and with the A53 5G, we're getting a single core score of 742, and a multi-core score of 1910. With the A52 5G, we got a single core score of 459 and a multi-core score of 1851. So these are definitely really close. Neither of them is really out of the league of the other. So both of them are going to be able to handle the same kind of stuff, which is definitely up there, especially in terms of mid-range phones. There's really not a whole lot these phones can't do. Maybe with really high-end graphics intensive games, something like Fortnite for example, these phones might struggle a little bit from time to time, but even those games aren't going to be completely unplayable. Sure, you're going to notice the difference if you compare it to something like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but for the most part, no matter what you need to do, these phones will get the job done. But that being said, from both these scores right here and my personal experience, I can say the Samsung Galaxy A53 is going to be a little bit faster. If you want the fastest phone between the two, then the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is going to have an advantage. But that being said, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is not far behind at all. Now for battery, the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G has a 5000 mAh battery that supports 25 watt fast charging. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has a 4500 mAh battery that also supports 25 watt fast charging. So this is pretty close. It's not like the A52 5G has a really small battery and the A53 5G has a really large one, which it does have a really large battery. But again, the 4500 mAh battery in the A52 5G is not bad, and both of these phones do have fast charging. So if you do need to charge up your phone rather quickly, this is going to save you some time provided you do have a strong fast charger. But that being said, while the difference isn't going to be astronomical, I will still say the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G does have an advantage here since it does have a clearly larger battery, and you will notice the difference, especially if battery is really important to you. Now another thing I want to point out, both of these phones do have NFC, so if you want to use mobile contactless payment services like Google Pay, you definitely can with either of these. But now that we've gone over some of the specs and features, let's take a closer look at the devices themselves. On the left side here, we got nothing for either phone. On the bottom, we got a 3.5mm headphone jack for the A52 5G. For the A53 5G, we got the slot for the SIM card and the microSD card. For both of the phones, we got the microphone, USB-C port, and the speaker. On the right side, we got the power keys, volume down, volume up. On the top, for both phones, we got the noise cancelling microphone, and for the A52 5G, we got the slot for the SIM card and microSD card. On the back, we got the camera setups and the flash. Both phones have a pretty nice looking matte finish, and neither of them show fingerprints too badly. As far as design goes, these phones are basically the same. I do think the A52 5G is a little bit thinner than the A53 5G. I'm not really sure why, but it does feel that way. And in addition to this, the A53 5G does have a little bit more weight to it. The other difference here is that again, like I said in the beginning of the video, the A53 5G does have thinner bezels, which makes it look a little bit more sleek and modern. But again, the A52 5G really doesn't look bad. And another more obvious difference here is that the A52 5G does have a headphone jack and the A53 5G doesn't. So if you have a pair of wired headphones that you like to use, unfortunately you can't use them with the A53 5G, but you can with the A52 5G. So if a headphone jack is an important feature for you, definitely keep this in mind. I personally think it's kind of disappointing that they took away that feature, but then again, wireless headphones are becoming more and more popular, and we're really moving in the direction of not having headphone jacks anyway, so I'm honestly not too surprised. But in conclusion, which of these devices is better? Honestly, not a whole lot has really changed. Sure, there are some design differences. There's a different processor and a better battery in the A53 5G, but other than that, pretty much everything is the same. We got the same display, same amount of storage, pretty much the same camera setup, and all the same features like NFC, dust and water resistance, all that. So really when it comes down to it, first of all, it's probably going to depend at least a little on what kind of deal you can get, because on one hand, the Samsung Galaxy A52, of course, being the older phone, is probably going to go for cheaper for the most part, but at the same time, with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G being so new, some carriers might have better deals. So definitely keep that in mind, because the deals and promotions are going to vary from carrier to carrier, of course, and they're probably going to change quite a bit over time. The other thing to think about is the fact that the A53 5G is the newer phone, and there are some things that are a little different. For example, again, the battery is larger with this phone, and the bezels are thinner overall, and the processor is slightly faster. Now, are these differences really deal breakers? I don't really think so. I don't think the experience you're going to get with the A53 5G versus the A52 5G is going to be completely different, but I will say for the most part, unless you really want a headphone jack, you will probably overall get a better experience with the A53 5G. But at the end of the day, both of these phones are some of the best mid-range phones you can get, and they definitely provide a lot of value in 2022. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to learn more about either of these phones, be sure to check out my full reviews of them as well. But that's it for this video. As always, I will see you in the next one.